From the Middle is very proud to be a founding member of Oddpods Media. Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 265 of From the Middle. If you're just joining us for the first time, we're a comedy, culture, entertainment, and interview style podcast. Your hosts are three middle-class guys living in the middle chapters of life somewhere in the middle of America, and our thoughts usually fall somewhere in the middle. In this episode, newly 40 Kendall tells us what it's like to hit that milestone. He claims he has about 5 years of experience. He also tells us about taking his son on a very special 10th birthday trip to Houston that could have been crappier, but wasn't. Hey, if you thought the story of me stealing Jordans from the handicapped from episode 85 was embarrassing and a spectacular train wreck, just wait until you hear what happened to me last week. And Dylan got some Taco Bell and has a lot of deep thoughts about that most recent drive-thru visit. Enjoy.
Oh, for the love.
Sorry, just clearing my Mountain Dew hole.
I got my phone hole cleaned today.
That's where you keep it? You're so cerebral and you're so developed and evolved.
For some people, you have Taco Bell and hotspotting takes on a whole new meaning. You know what I mean? Did we have Wi-Fi? Do we have data? Do we have Wi-Fi? Are you?
I think we're good. Let's do this.
We're recording right now, Dylan.
Oh, this is the show. This is
the show. I know it's really hard to
believe
tell.
it or not.
This is the show. Yeah, I was saying, I think some people, I've never had the Taco Bell, post Taco Bell incidents. And I quote, incidents that some people have. I think they just have like no fiber in their life. And then they go to Taco Bell and their body's like, whoa, beans and rice. Thanks, buddy. And then, stuff happens.
Hotspotting. Yeah. Then the Taco Bell fiber probably isn't the fiber that the body was begging for.
Well,
would be my guess. Don't start there.
Yeah.
Eat an apple first or something.
Bananas. Are those high
gracious.
Fiber? Are bananas
I
good
think so.
for fiber? I don't know.
I don't know if bananas are or not. I don't even know if apples are. I'm not a nutrition scientist.
We're from the Midwest. We eat like potatoes and corn. That's about all of our.
Yeah. Whatever's in ranch. Is there fiber in ranch dressing?
Sure. Mayonnaise probably has fiber. Yeah.
Okay. There we go.
You know who should care more about fiber? People in their 40s. Kendall, happy belated birthday. This is the first time talking to you since the big day. How do you feel?
I was telling you earlier, I felt 40 about 5 years ago. Or what I reckoned a 40-year-old should probably feel like. So I don't feel a day over 45 today. So I'm doing good. I'm doing well.
So glad we got that in there.
Being 40 now.
You're like 5 whole years ahead of where you should be. So that's great.
Oh boy.
Tell us about your big day. What did you do? You just got back from a trip. You've got a lot going on.
That's all true. Yeah.
So you got to fill us in.
My birthday last week was on Wednesday. And it was good. It was a good birthday. My wife wasn't there. So that sucked. But I mean, it was fine. I think I told you guys. I did tell you guys. We celebrated my birthday a little early. And before she left for a work-related conference, which was cool. But so she was gone for most of the week, and man, birthday was just kind of like I took the kids to breakfast, I think, and lunch, and I don't remember what we did about dinner. But it was cool. They were fun. But, and on Thursday, we picked Amy up at the airport, or Amy got home late on Wednesday night. And then Thursday, Isaac and I flew to Houston, Texas for his birthday.
Yeah.
So he was turning 10. We're taking the play out of the Kory Sherry Hubble flick of we're going to make a big deal out of the 10-year birthday. So for Isaac, it meant us cashing in some Southwest miles that have been saved up since COVID, and being a Hyatt Rewards member comes into play. And so, relatively inexpensive, I was able to take him on a trip to Houston to go see a baseball game, which he's all about that. And he wants to collect the baseball parks just like I do. And so Houston was one where it's easy to get a Southwest flight there. It's not one we're going to accidentally drive to sometime for some other reason. So we did that. Um, there's a little bit of hot spotting that happened on that little trip. So we got there Thursday right around dinner time is when we end up in the hotel. And we've talked before about my fear of having to poop in unfamiliar places and in places where it would be horribly inconvenient to poop. My body just starts yelling at me, "You have to poop." And I start panicking. And then sometimes I am able to make it to a bathroom and I don't have to poop. So that happens to me. And so part of what I do to combat this for things like air travel is I fast before air travel. So the flight left Columbus, Ohio at like 3 something, right? And so I didn't eat. I had a relatively simple dinner the night before, which is why I didn't remember my birthday dinner because it wouldn't have been exciting. Didn't have breakfast, didn't have lunch. And then it was about dinner time by the time we were in the hotel. I'm stupid hungry. We're in Houston, Texas. I'm asking Isaac, this is his birthday trip, and I'm truly trying to make it everything sort of like his decision. And what he wants for dinner, and we can look around, and we've already kind of like knew some of the places that were around. He wants to order Papa John's pizza. And I'm like, son, you're in Houston, Texas. We have Papa John's in Ohio. Not only do we have Papa John's in Ohio, but it's not good in Ohio. What makes you think it's a? I told him about the fact that we had Jonathan from Grabbing the Brisket on the podcast, and he admitted that Houston doesn't do pizza all that well. So Papa John's it was. And
you
that
can't
was the
be like,
only
no,
thing in
you
my
can't.
stomach.
You can't be like, no, you can't have what you want for your birthday meal because it's illogical. And there
Yeah,
are better choices.
So
you go enjoy.
I did try to talk him down a little bit, and I explained the scenario to him, and then said, "That's all I'm saying. Your choice." Papa John's. Okay.
That's like a local mom and pop's restaurant open near us. And it's always nice when a potentially good restaurant opens up near that's not a chain. You can get excited about like having something different. And we went for the first time, and Finley wanted buttered noodles off the menu. And I'm like, there's all kinds of pastas, there's pizza, buttered noodles. Couldn't talk her out of it. I'm like, literally got that at home and cook it in about 5 minutes. Buttered noodles.
Yeah, kids.
Yep.
So anyway, but I will say this, because of the circumstances, my goodness, that was the best Papa John's I've ever had. It went down real easy. The next day, I shouldn't have eaten the Papa John's pizza in Houston, Texas. Or I had some kind of bug. And I was just going to say, let's just say gastro problems, but instead I'm going to call it hot spotting. With texture going on to the point like I'm like throughout the day on Friday, which is really like the only full day that we're there. I'm like feeling dehydrated every time we walk someplace in the Houston, Texas heat. Like my legs are weak, and like and it was like we went swimming twice, and which was cool. But like every time, like it would like we'd go do something, we'd come back to the room, and like I'd sit in the air conditioning for a while, and I would like drink something for a bit, and then start feeling okay, and then okay, buddy, let's go do something else. And thankfully, we were able to kind of like rack up all the things that he wanted to do. The only thing that he wanted to do that we didn't get to do was go to a shopping mall. There just weren't any in the area, and we wouldn't have been able to fit it in with any kind of time frame that would have allowed us to do the other things that he wanted to do. So we didn't do that, but we did walk to. We had breakfast at the hotel. We walked just like a block to another pizza place called Russo's for lunch, an early lunch, because he wanted calzones. He was looking on the iPad like the weeks before we were leaving, just like looking at the Apple Maps app and just like seeing what's around the hotel. And then he would like click on links and read the menu. And still Papa John's ended up happening. I don't know why. But Russo's had calzones and he really wanted a calzone. I don't know that he's not experienced in calzones, but that seemed like a really great idea. So we went and we got calzones from Russo's. And which actually I don't know, I can't say anything about the pizza for Russo's. I don't know. The calzones were amazing. And I will say this about them. One thing that I have heard and therefore have started to look for and is hard to find, at least around Columbus, is there are some people who will say a real calzone has ricotta cheese in it. Like that is a necessity for a calzone. And Russo's, they're putting ricotta cheese in the calzones. And it was delicious. It was
nothing
good.
settles bubble guts from a bad pizza like
calzone.
So
they cut the calzone into 3 slices. I ate most of 1 slice of it. And that was also after garlic knots. It just, listen, there was some bad decisions. I'm not blaming Houston, Texas for my hot spotting. But then we're walking back and like he sees like a strip of grass somewhere. And one of the things he had his heart set on was playing throw and catch because we had our gloves for the baseball game and we brought a ball just in case. And I'm like trying to talk him out of that now. And we're sitting in the lobby of the hotel waiting for housekeeping to finish up with our room. And telling him, dude, I mean, there's people walking, there's a street right there. And so, but then I started to feel bad because now like I'm telling him no on his special birthday trip. And it's, and it's because I'm pooping every 10 minutes. But so I'm like looking up in the app and I find a patch of grass that looks like it might be big enough that we can throw a ball around. And so again, maintenance gets done with our room. We cool down, drink stuff, and I'm feeling good enough. I'm like, all right, buddy, let's go. And so we walked to this place, which was nearby. And I'm like, worst case scenario is like it's private property. We're not allowed to be there and someone kicks us out. No big deal. Or I recognize that it's starting to get dangerous for other people. So we're going to stop. But it ended up being fine. And I manipulated that situation a little bit. We started off with I was standing in the sun, he was standing in the shade, did that for about 15 minutes, and then conveniently swapped with him. And then we did it until he got too hot to be out there playing throw and catch. So now it was his decision to stop.
Yeah.
Every good ball player needs to learn how to catch a ball staring directly at the sun. So
exactly,
really just working on his skills. I understand.
Yeah. So we did that. We did putt. We did the game. The game was great. The game was fun. The putt was at a place called Putt Shack. You should look it up. It's like everything is digital and automatic, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
And the game was really cool. Tell you what, that day I appreciated more than any other time watching a professional sporting game indoors in air conditioning. So hooray for the Houston Astros for maintaining a dome above their stadium.
Is it a nice park? I mean, that's a huge plus. But
it is a nice park. It is a really cool park. I like Minute Maid Park. We were sitting 2 rows back from and then about 20 feet away on the fair side of the left field foul pole.
All right.
So we were right there in like lefty, barely a homer territory.
Yeah.
None ended up coming our way. We were there early enough for batting practice. And so there were a couple that kind of ended up in our section, but like one section over, they were just, I'm pretty sure everybody in that section ended up with the ball. We didn't get any, but it was still cool. It was like the thrill of that experience. Like it was still fun.
What
And,
special time, man.
Yeah. And then we woke up early the next morning and flew back. And by the time we got to the baseball game, my tummy troubles were over. So I
You
wasn't
don't
too
want to have
worried
tummy
about
troubles at a
the flights.
ballpark. It's not a fun time. You never know what the
Wouldn't want
bathroom,
that.
as nice as the AC and dome are, you never know what the bathroom situation is going to be like at a ball.
That's true. That's very true.
Couple
So
ballpark hot dogs can really make things kind of smooth out.
yeah, I was on my fast by then anyway, so I wasn't going to be eating at the ballpark. That was dinner at the ballpark. He got 2 different kinds of ice cream. So we got ice cream when we got there, and then later on, I'm like, "Hey, let's go get you something else because this is your dinner." It's like, okay, we're walking around. I think I want ice cream. You just did. Okay, okay, yes. The answer is yes. We're doing ice cream again. So
I know you guys are, I mean, I've heard bits and pieces enough to know that it seems like you guys are pretty good about having really intentional time with each child. Do you feel like he appreciated and understood the fact that like this trip is just for you? We're not worrying
Oh,
about
yeah.
your siblings. And do you
Yeah.
feel like he really felt that like in a palpable sense, like all the extra treats and let's get ice cream again? And like,
Totally.
I'm sure he was just eating it up literally and figuratively.
He totally was. I mean, just the idea that like the decision, all of the decisions were his to make, with the exception of like I had to tell him like we just flat out don't have time to like get a car out to the burbs of Houston from downtown to go to a shopping mall, and then get back and then still maybe be able to do these other things. So we were able to do all of the other things that he wanted to do. We were able to, he wanted to hang out in the hotel and play Mario Kart for a while. We did that. Like
That's awesome.
we did all the things. We watched some vintage professional wrestling. Like we're talking like WCW wrestling. We were watching for a
Nice.
while. Yeah. It was cool.
Special time. He'll remember that for the rest of his life, man. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Good for you. And I like to, I haven't listened to Pete and Sebastian in a while, but one thing I've noticed on their Patreon page is that Pete has started side content, and he's calling it loose ends. And he allows people to call in and say, "You never wrapped up the story about fill in the blank, or you just told us that something was coming, but you never finished the story. What ended up happening with the fill in the blank?" And so, we knew you were going. It's cool to hear it full circle. That's awesome. So on the loose
See my
ends,
glasses here a little bit here. With the seeming, you gotta
Look.
say thank you to the Dylan and the Bree and the Finn
You got it, buddy.
or the Jinkies. Here's what so for those of you not on the YouTubes, Dylan and family sent me a birthday card with a lens cloth in it that's shaped like a piece of pizza and looks like a piece of pizza, and even the back of it is the crust of a piece of pizza. It is wonderful. Look at Kory has like a paint palette thing. Is that what
I've
that
got
is?
an artist palette. Finner's
Yeah.
got me one.
I love it.
It's so special. Look at us.
It's not much, but it's a fun little nifty gifty for you.
Yeah. Shout out to Dylan, Bree, Finn, and Jinkies.
Yeah. They're very fun. I have one. Well, hold on. I have one at my desk. And quite naturally, I have a tortilla because I use tortillas for everything. So perfect right there at my desk.
Well, speaking of loose ends, I told you guys that we were going to follow in Dylan's footsteps and do a garage sale. And I have a really great garage sale story. But I like a lot of context, and I like to take you on the journey. So I'm gonna really slow walk it. This might cut into our break, but it'll be fine. So generally wasn't too excited about the idea of a garage sale in the first place, because I find that they're not always, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. It feels like you do a lot of work for sometimes diminished returns, which
Yeah.
I understand that that's the game. Somebody in our neighborhood, who will remain nameless, said, "Hey, odds are better if a lot of houses go in on this. Let's do a big community garage sale on August 2nd and 3rd. We'll do it from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Who's in?" And people were like, "I'm in. I've got so much crap to sell. Yes, 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 queen. Let's do this. Woo! We're in. This address is in. This will be great." So Sherry and the kids and I start hauling stuff up to the garage. We've never done one since we moved in 9 years ago. We've never done a garage sale. We've taken a handful of items to other people's sales, but we've never done like our own garage, our own driveway. Let's do this. So we start hauling stuff up. And I mean, it's a lot. Stuff that Sherry has had her eye on to get rid of, big things, small things, kids' toys, clothes, all kinds of stuff. So now the garage is full of unpriced, unorganized stuff that we are planning to organize and price for this garage sale. When the person whose idea it was to start the garage sale says in the community Facebook page, "Hey, everybody, looks like weather might not cooperate," might being the operative word. "And because they're doing some light construction, what do you say we move it to Labor Day?" That's a month away.
Mhm.
I've now got a garage full of stuff. You know how happy I've been to not have a garage full of stuff?
Oh, yeah. We
instead-
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now I got a garage full of stuff. And so I text she who shall not be named and said, "You're killing us, Smalls. I got a garage full of crap now. And you're moving this a month out, which means I have to be in a state of limbo." Anyway, I was being playful with her, but anyway, it was fine. So it ends up that on a very busy work week, on that Friday and Saturday is when we're going to try to stick to the original dates. So I messaged the Facebook neighborhood Facebook page and say, who's with me to stick in with the original dates? And people are like, that'd be way better for us. We're gone on Labor Day. Let's stick to it. So we decide to stick to the original dates and post to a few Sunbury selling walls, community garage sale, August 2nd and 3rd, rain or shine type thing, Sherry, my beloved bride, is unavailable. She's out of pocket this week because she's got a team meeting. Her direct reports are in from multiple states, and she's got meetings Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. She can't help at all. She's like, "So this is going to be you and the kids to run this." And I am covering for two people while they're on vacation. So I'm covering for two of my colleagues, and I'm going to do this garage.
Oof.
I'm just setting myself up for all kinds of failure. So it's the day of the garage sale. It's early morning. I get up at 7 a.m. It's supposed to start at 9. Stuff is mostly priced and mostly organized, but we're short on tables. We don't have enough tables. We needed to borrow some tables. And somebody shows up at 7:30. Our garage door was already open because we were starting to bring things out onto the driveway, and she starts going through stuff at 7:30 when it's supposed to start at 9. And I said, "Well, somebody's an early bird," as a little bit of a passive aggressive.
Yeah.
This started at 9, but here you are. 5 minutes into her browsing, she goes, "Oh, this is probably a little annoying that I'm here. Like, you don't have everything priced," because she recognized she had kept asking, "What does this cost? Are these a pair? Does this go with the what sizes?" And like, we were still in the midst of setting up. Sherry's great. Sherry's really good at making observations and seeing what things could be better. And on her way out the door to leave for her meeting for the day, she said, "I think you should do it this way, this way, this way." And I just snap and say, "You have a lot of opinions for someone who isn't going to be helping." It was not very nice. I was being grumpy, and I apologized later. Oh, the lady had left, by the way. I didn't say that in front of the lady. This was after the lady had left. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
So I'm just being grumpy. I'm being short with the kids. I'm dripping sweat because it's humid, because it had rained the night before. Stuff still isn't priced. Neighbors see that we're desperate. They start bringing tables. We start setting stuff out and this is where it gets good. The 7-year-old neighbor girl comes over and she starts going through our stuff. Now, Lily and Case, thing 1 and thing 3, are going to have agreed to pretty much run the garage sale when I have to be on calls and in meetings and stuff. But I said, if somebody tries to haggle, you can come in and get me. But like for the most part, things are prices marked, and just tell them that. So the 7-year-old cute little blonde, petite little tiny little neighbor girl is going through our stuff and buys a few things. I come outside to check on Lily and Case to see how things are going. And she said, nobody has come since the neighbor girl, and she's going to come back. There's something she really wants to buy. And I say, okay. So because I had had a bad attitude about all of this, and because I had already snapped at Sherry and was being a little grumpy with the kids, I decide in that moment, Kory, you choose your attitude. Right now, crossroads moment, line in the sand, you can choose to be fun dad, and you can choose to just like, yes, this is annoying. You were unprepared. The change of date has been a real pain in the butt, but it is what it is. Make the most of this and just be fun dad, right? Right? Just, you can control your attitude and your actions. You can respond instead of reacting. Be fun. So when the 7-year-old little neighbor girl comes over, I start to just try to be over the top fun and nice. And what she had picked out was a clear hotel-sized bottle of water that had glitter in it. One of my kids had made this for a craft, and they were selling it for 25 cents. So it's just a perfectly clear hotel-sized bottle of water with glitter in it. Now, you could have just said, why didn't you just give it to the neighbor girl? And I thought, because 1, the kids are selling it, and 2, she's excited to spend her own quarter on the glitter water. Okay. So I say, Rowan, did you know that's magical water? She goes, no, it isn't. And I go, yeah, it is. It's magical water. And she goes, well, how is it magic? And I say, oh, you didn't hear about the wizard? And she goes, wizard? I go, yeah, a year ago before you moved, a wizard came into our neighborhood to this very dead end. And he had a long blue robe. And on the robe were silver moons and stars. He had the big pointy hat and the very long white beard. Yes, there was a wizard here. And he came up to our house and he said, and I as I'm telling this story, I'm like, this is silly that I'm even doing this, but I'm trying so hard to now be fun. And I go, yeah. He walked by our house and he said, does anyone have any water? And we said, what, wizard? And he was like, water. Does anyone have any water? And so we went and got him the clear bottle of water that you are now holding. And he said, abracadabra, alakazam, and poof. And I really emphasized the poof, and she took a half step back. As soon as he said that, Rowan, the glitter was in there. It's magic, and you can do all kinds of magical things with it. And Rowan said, can it help my grandmother? She has liver problems, liver cancer.
Oh.
And my mom told us today that grandma called with bad news. And we're all going over to her house tonight. Mom thinks it's bad news, and mom thinks that she's dying. Can I take it there?
Dude.
Now Lily and Case are seated at the cash register area. Lily has been tracking with this story the whole time, kind of like rolling her eyes like, huh, dad, but a little bit excited that I'm in fun dad mode. the minute that Rowan, in the sweet, like the kid on the tricycle from The Incredibles, I don't know, something amazing, I guess. Like that scene, that's the voice that she goes, well, can it? And the minute that she says that, Lily just cranks her head 180 degrees and her shoulders just start doing this. Obviously, not at the family situation, just at the timing of all of this. And I said, Rowan, I'm so sorry. Yes, you can absolutely take the glitter water to your grandma's house, but also, what's your grandma's name? Because I'd really like to say a prayer for her. And she goes, Sharon. And I was like, okay, well, you take the water and you can just know that we'll be saying a little prayer for you. And now I've told her about a wizard. I'm bringing Jesus into the picture. And I'm thinking,
no.
the one time I try to just like control my emotions and like choose to operate in a positive way and be a little over the top and silly, the worst possible thing that a child could say in response to what you're trying to do actually happens.
Oh, man.
So she went off on her merry way, or maybe less merry. And I was like, do I now have to like call the neighbors and be like, so interesting thing happened. First of all, so sorry. I was
Not only am I responsible for glitter being brought into your home,
like thoughts, you guys.
a quick thought that I have is knowing you. And I say this because you know that I share some of this with you. Being an overthinker, going through that situation, what must be going on through your head? Like in my head, I was thinking to myself, not to make your overthinking any worse. Like that's the time to step out of it and just say, listen, kid, I was just trying to tell a fun story. But you went a different route. I don't know what to do. Yeah. Go ahead, Dylan.
Moral of the story: don't try. Just give up. Lean into the bad mood and the negativity, because trying just puts you in a bad spot. I think that's the moral of the story.
That's right. Fall asleep with your clothes on, man.
Yep. Lean into it. I don't know. I think like much like Kendall, I think I would have just immediately backpedaled and said, it won't help. I'm so sorry. I was just trying to tell it's a fun, silly story. It's cute. It's cute water. You can have it. I'll buy it. I'll give the quarter to the kids. You can have that. And yeah, give your grandma a big hug.
Mm-hmm.
I was so excited to tell you guys this story, and I've actually practiced on a few other people first. And one friend responded with like, you have to play out the scenarios that happen after your story. So what's the conversation between the neighbor girl and her parents? Does this become the origin story of an evil villain? It all started when a man in my neighborhood gave me water that he said was magic. My grandma was probably dying from liver cancer.
Yeah.
I mean, better yet, mind of a child. They didn't even hear you say magic water. They heard you say magical cure. Just that's instantly what they heard. It wasn't even once the idea popped in their head, that might as well have been what you said to them. I have a cure for any problem in your world. And she thought of her dear grandma. And so very likely a villain origin tale. Or maybe just jaded. Maybe she'll never believe in anything again for the rest of her life. I don't know.
That's one of the things that they say about Santa Claus is Now, I'm going to say right now, I don't subscribe to this theory, but there's a lot of Christians out there who decide to not do the Santa Claus thing with their kids. And the reasoning behind that is now I can tell you what we do later. But sometimes the reasoning that they have is, well, because we don't want them to get burned, but because the day is going to come. Their heart's going to get broken when they find out that the Santa Claus that they believed in all their life isn't actually real. And then now they're not going to believe in anything supernatural. And now God doesn't exist for them anymore. And then I don't know of anybody where that's actually been their story. Their road to atheism was finding out that Santa Claus wasn't real. I don't think that that's a thing. I don't buy that. There's other good arguments to not want to do the Santa Claus things with your kids. It's fine. I don't think that anyway. I don't think that you ruined imagination for this child.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, it makes me feel a little better.
What you're doing was inherently good. You were trying to have fun with the little neighborhood kid and create a fun little memory. It backfired spectacularly, but it doesn't mean that what you did was wrong, you know. So,
well, you know what else is spectacular? Our friends in Odd Pods Media and their podcast, and they're going to tell you all about it right now.
Hey there, I'm Dave, the host of Beer in Front. Sometimes the beer in front of you is the best one yet. I'll talk about some old school beers that maybe you've forgotten about, some new beers that have the potential to be a classic. I'll also talk to various people around the beer world and get their stories all about beer. That's Beer in Front, and it's available on all of your favorite podcast apps.
That's a doozy.
Dude, that's up there with the handicap Jordans.
That's a whole nother league from the handicap Jordans.
that was kind of, that feels like in the vein of the Quaker Steak and Lube, me saying the thing to the waitress about, you look like you like wings, because of all the pins on her vest and like her flare, not her size. But then I said it and I heard it as after I said it. And Brian Regan does a bit about wanting to put words back in your mouth after they get released. And
Listen,
that was one of those for me.
We're already on the back half right now. I just decided. And something like that, I think, happened to me. On our return flight, we were connecting in Atlanta and from Houston, and the plane from Houston to Atlanta got delayed, and it ended up being delayed like an hour and a half, couple hours or something like that. Eventually was the total time, which ruined our layover. Isaac was looking forward to a layover in Atlanta to explore another airport, which is fun. And that kind of thing, honestly, as an adult, still is fun for me too. But as it turned out, the flight was going to be landing in Atlanta at 1:40 now, the new time, which is exactly the boarding time for our connection.
And Atlanta is a large airport.
Well, thankfully, I looked at the gates, and they're only 2 gates away. So I didn't think that there was going to be a problem there, unless if it would have gotten delayed one more time, we would have been looking for new flights. But that didn't happen. But so now we're sitting there because we got there early. Wanted to eat breakfast at the airport and stuff like that. And so where we are sitting for the better part of a couple of hours is right next to the desk for Southwest by our gate. And there's a lady who is there poking away at a computer. It all started with Isaac asking her, because I didn't know the answer, what kind of plane we were going to be on. How big was it? Because he's just interested in that kind of thing. In reality, his question was, is this going to be a 3-seat row or a 2-seat row or a 4-seat row? And even though I had told him, like, dude, just almost every flight I've ever been on has been 3 seats. That's probably what it's going to be. And that's what she told him. And so then I asked her, because it's Southwest and they're still doing the first come, first serve kind of thing. And so be something. Do you think on this flight there'd be a problem with us sitting together or possibly having a third person? Actually, I left that part out, and it, that, like, because almost immediately this plane is only half. Like, nobody have to sit next to anybody, and so she eased my mind there. But then I told her, just mentioned that, our arrival time in Atlanta is the same time as our connecting flight. And she looked at the connecting flight, but that only had 4 seats left. And the that she asked me, looking at me, I would totally understand if not, it was get you a third seat, and a third ticket that you put on your seat. And even if it's flight, there's 4 seats left, which means I can give you one of these for that flight. And row to yourself, you'll have more room. And so my first thought was, you just called me fat. You're right. And I'm not offended. And yes, we'll appreciate that. As I'm sure nobody wants to sit next to the fat guy. On the airplane, strategic move on my part to purposely sit on the aisle. So that way, if there's other seats available, the next to me looks far less attractive. But it doesn't work out. Sometimes people just don't think, and they're like, "Hey, I'll sit next to the fat guy. I forgot to bring my pillow." Oh, but then like she backed up a little bit because I think she was having that thought, like, did I just call him fat? The forest for the trees there was having this third pass, a reserved seat, puts you in the pre-boarding group, which means that on current flight, even though it was only half full, we could sit as close to the front in the very front too, because we're going to be the first ones on the plane. We're getting on with the wheelchair folks, which means that we can get off real fast and get to the gate. That was her point. And so we accepted that, and that was good. It was helpful to be able to do that. It was very nice to be on the connecting flight with that pass and be one of like the 3 rows that only had 2 people in it. That was cool. But yeah, had
And you
that
made
kind of
it.
experience on the other end of that situation of someone saying something, watching them think about what they just said, and then clarifying what they just said.
Yeah. Do you think there was like any consideration, like, he probably has been spotting a lot, probably needs a little, give him some room.
He's gone to the bathroom a lot in these
been in
last 2
Houston.
hours.
He's been in Houston, not known for their Italian. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure that's what they think when they see me in an airport. I'm projecting. Anyways, at least you got the reserve pass, which was really nice. I've never had that, like, that much room. Kory gets like to sprawl out across 3 seats because he somehow always is able to pull that off. I've never been so lucky. I've been the guy like sitting like this, always inevitably in the middle seat, and people are stuck by me, and there's no other, there's no other option. This is just where I live.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So good. Good for you.
Dylan,
Fun.
what's new in your world? We just shared 2 very long stories. Would love to hear what you're up to.
Super mindful, but one of the more thoughtful in a really minor way. Like, if some things can be like mildly amusing or mildly irritating, this is like, I don't know what the positive version of that is. Mildly polite. So I'm in line in the drive-through to get Taco Bell. I'm getting my fast food, and I've placed my mobile order. And if I have a problem with
Getting
the
your
mobile-
fiber for the day.
getting my fiber for the day, yeah, just need to clear things out. Anyways, so I'm in line and I've placed my mobile order, and I have a problem with this. Anyone knows their local that goes even quasi regularly to their local fast. You know which ones are slow, you know which ones are fast, you know which ones are bad. The Taco Bell closest to me, which is very close, is very slow, but they're generally fairly consistent. The food is usually decent. It's usually made right. So even though it feels like a hassle, it's not an overall terrible experience. So my problem with the mobile order thing is usually when they pull you up, they make you wait. They're like, go ahead and take a look at the menu and we'll get back to you. I'm like, I just need to get out the words I have a mobile order, because all they need to do is like probably hit a button that's like, this guy's here. And they'll start making it. But then I got to sit and wait. And then for whatever reason, drive-throughs, you've experienced this, I'm sure everyone has, are either too short or too long, because the average length of cars doesn't make sense for where the drive-through thing is and for the windows.
Right.
And so when it's too long, it's not a big deal because there's just extra space. But when it's too short, somebody pulls forward, but there's still like not quite room if you get the right kind of length of cars. That's the situation at this drive-through. It's just kind of short. And so on top of waiting a long time, and on top of them usually telling you to wait and look at the menu just for you to say, which they need to just say, go ahead and look at the menu unless you have a mobile order. That's a whole other problem. Anyways, so I want to pull forward, but this is pulled up, but it's not enough room. So I'm stuck waiting even longer just to say I have a mobile order.
Oh,
but then I noticed the guy.
I'm so annoyed at this situation. And you're just
I know. And this
story.
is, and again, and I've been eating there even less because it's just, there's been times where I've been in that drive-through for, not an exaggeration, 30 to 40 minutes. It's nuts. And so at least the food is usually right when I get home, but man, it doesn't feel worth it. Anyways, then I noticed the car in front of me clearly makes a move like they're pulling away. Like maybe they tried to order something, they didn't have it. They told him to, hey, you have a mobile order, go ahead and pull into a parking spot, which they normally don't park cars there. I'm like, oh, he's leaving. But then he stops. And I realized the only logical explanation for the move, because it wasn't a normal kind of pull around. Sometimes people pull out a little bit. He angled his car away from the curve of the corner of the drive-through to like clearly pull out, like potentially putting yourself in a bad spot if somebody whips around the drive-through. But that's his problem. Anyways, I'm realizing what he did was he pulled up just enough so that I could get forward to go ahead and place my order. There's no other explanation. He pulled too far away from the curve that it didn't make sense that he was doing anything else other than he could have left, but he didn't. So the only thing that made sense was he recognizes that I needed room to get up to place my order because he probably already knows that it's slow. And I'm not normally into ageist or generational jokes or whatever. Like that's not kind of the thing we do. But in my head, I'm thinking this is like a millennial Gen Z level of awareness here. This is like a thing I wouldn't necessarily expect. So this is not being critical. I wouldn't expect somebody like 60 and up to think about something like that. This feels like somebody who plays a lot of Grand Theft Auto. Do you know what I mean? Like they have
you hate old people. Yeah.
Sure. So it just doesn't, it feels like a thing that somebody who's thought about a drive-through as annoyingly as I have. And I'm not saying old people aren't thoughtful. I'm just saying this just feels like it's a millennial kind of restaurant. This just feels like the kind of thing. And then I get a look and the guy is young. So it like doubles down. I'm like, it was probably the guy thinking it was very thoughtful, all things considered, mildly thoughtful. That was probably the right word for it. It was mildly thoughtful. It didn't really inconvenience him, but it was just enough thought that it helped somebody else. And I appreciated that. And so, if you're old, maybe think about other people in the drive-through line sometimes. I'm kidding. But my brain did make an assumption that I'm like, I feel like this is thing that somebody that would younger would think about. I don't know why I think that way.
Yeah,
But that's just
I was 100% with you until you made the comment about age, because I would have assumed the opposite. I
you
would have
think so?
I would have assumed that a person pulling forward has enough old world sense or self-awareness to open a door for a lady, walk on the street side when you're walking with a lady. There's somebody behind me that can't place order. I'm gonna go ahead and pull up. Whatever age, they're doing the Lord's work, because that
Right.
is a massive pet peeve of mine. Because I've seen people leave an extra 6 feet knowing, and I mean knowing, because they look in their side mirror and they can tell you can't place your order until they pull up a bit. And doesn't that only make everybody's meals come out faster if you get the order in sooner? Forget the mobile order part for a second. Your order gets in sooner and the food can be made earlier if people pull forward to allow you to go. Yes, you're still going to have to wait in the regular order, but the food has already started because they were thoughtful enough and had enough spatial awareness to see that someone behind them couldn't get up to the speaker because they didn't move forward. Love it.
Yeah, it was great. It was a nice, mildly thoughtful gesture, and I appreciate that person very much. And I'm going to think about that next time in that drive-through, because I didn't even have that thought before, of like pulling out that far. Like, I try to pull up as close as I can to the next bumper. I try to leave a little room, because some cars, they'll hit to the wrong, they'll hit
Oh,
reverse
you'll see
instead of
them back up a little bit. That makes me nervous. You'll
a
see
little
them back up a
paranoid.
little bit because they overshot the window, and then you
Yep.
see them sitting there with their brakes on, still in reverse, and you just know, because we've all done it before, like here
Yeah.
and there. Like, you
Yeah.
just know they're going to stomp on that accelerator, thinking they're in drive.
Yep.
Ooh.
Probably those dumb young drivers, because all the old ones are really thoughtful and super kind and nice and always think of everyone all the time, forever. Anyways, it was really nice, which got me thinking of, if there's anything, maybe we drag this into another episode, but if there's anything that you've ever done or you've noticed somebody do that's not like a normal thing, like just holding a door open. That happens. Not that it's not nice, but it happens all the time. But something that's just a slight inconvenience to yourself, that's just thoughtful enough that it shows you had to do a little something extra. It wasn't just like I'm going to pass you salt at a restaurant, or I'm going to open the door because you're already walking in. I don't know if you have any examples of those in both of your travels. Maybe it's somebody pointing out, um, a bathroom when you're traveling and you desperately need one, going out of their way to help find you one. I don't know. Anyways, you guys have any things like that you've noticed?
Not off the top, but I'm definitely going to think of it, because I think that's a great prompt for
We
next
need
time.
Yeah.
to call back.
I
Yeah.
think that so many of our pet peeves are about people not having spatial awareness,
Mm-hmm.
or just being generally unthoughtful and selfish. And so, like, the opposite of that is people having more spatial awareness than you expect them to have.
Right.
Um, or instead of worrying about them being inconvenienced minorly, are willing to inconvenience themselves for someone else.
Yeah.
I had one
And
tonight. I have to share it.
yeah,
One of the places I look forward to coming to have a bite to eat when I'm in Seattle is there's a uh steak and not steak and Shake Shack right next to the Amazon office. And there are better smash burgers. I don't think it's the best, but I do enjoy it. I think it's fine. And they have a peach milkshake that's delightful. So it's all screen ordering. You walk in, there's no counter you can go to talk to anyone. There's just screens. And I want to say there's 4 or 5 of them. 2 families were all ordering together, and they were taking up so much space. They weren't large people. They were just taking so much space because there were 5-ish members to it that you couldn't even access the other screens. So, and there was a line forming. So they were all like, do they have what if I get a double? They were all over each other's shoulders. One person pushing buttons, 2 whole families Now you could have said, excuse us, you're blocking at least two, I think three other ordering screens because you're so excited about your family order. Maybe you could just clear a path for the rest of us. So I could have said that, but I chose the Midwestern passive aggressive route, and I chose to get annoyed and talk about it on my podcast instead, which is how we do things now. It did annoy me that a couple that got there clearly after me, once a screen did become available, went to that screen because they were closer in proximity. Another example of a lack of spatial awareness, because I would have clocked who's here waiting, who's here ordering, who's next in line. Once these inconsiderate people part the Red Sea, it's this person. But it didn't happen. So anyway.
Well,
yeah, we're
okay.
back.
We're back.
Sorry.
It's all right.
Yeah, listeners and viewers may notice that there are a few moments in this week's episode that are a little bit choppy, and it's all going to come out in the wash. It'll be fine. You get the gist. We've not missed major content. Continue, Kendall. You're in a parking lot.
Yeah, I think helping other people with their grocery load into their vehicle. My mind sometimes goes the route of, is this going to be weird if I were to help? Like, am I creepy for asking if I can help somebody load their groceries? Unless it's like an old lady by herself, because they came from an era where it would be perfectly normal, if not expected, for a man to walk up and ask the lady, even the young lady, if he can help her. Ladies, I feel like that probably, and so I don't feel weird about doing that, but I do appreciate that kind of thing. If somebody stopping lady, when I see that, help load, I appreciate that as well. Another kind of supermarket related one, come to think of it, is just the simple, oh, you only have a few things and I have a full of stuff. Like that. And this is where the old people started. That a lot of young people are willing to inconvenience themselves that much. We're just always way too much in a hurry for no apparent reason. We drive as if like, we're going 70 down, or no, we're not the freeway. We're going 55 down a road in the suburbs, and the speed limit's 50. We're already going 5 over. That's as fast as we were going to go anyway. But for some reason, we feel like we have to get in front of the person in front of us. Like, I feel like a lot of people have that issue. Like, you're not going to drive any faster than this. If you are, that's fine. If you want to be the speed demon, that's fine. But if we're already going the speed limit or 5 over the speed limit, and you just want to get in front of the person so that you want to, whatever, like, I feel like a lot of people have like that attitude. And like, yeah, I feel like we all just need to slow down a little bit, let the person behind you cut in front of you sometimes, and be kind.
I'm guilty of the one. I don't want to feel locked, and because sometimes for me it's a like, if especially in rural America, people might stop turn, and so if I'm just kind of cruising because I'm going to be driving on a road for a while, and people are like getting off main roads, go down side roads and country roads, I don't want somebody stopping abruptly in front of me. I want lots of, and I know I could just slow way down and give them tons of room. I'm like slowing my down for no reason. Like, I just slow down. I know I'm driving a while. It's the same as I might sit in the left lane. It's like, I'm going to need to go this speed for a while. So if you are going to get off soon, you should get over. And I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying my thinking is, if I'm going to be on a road for a while, I don't want to be stuck behind a car who might be stopping abruptly sometime to turn to get off because they're local and I'm not. And so I do think there is something to just like relax, slow down. You're only going to get there 90 seconds faster. Just it's okay to give yourself 60 yards between you and the next car and go 54 miles an hour, even if you're going to be driving for a while.
Yeah.
That's
I
totally.
bang the spatial awareness drum so often that when I do get caught being the person who was oblivious in a moment, I over explain and I feel the need to call it out to the person how rude it was. So
Mm.
for the garage sale, I bought 3 garage sale signs from Ace Hardware, and I took the garage sale signs out because I knew I had a marker in my truck. And I'm like, I'll save myself a trip of going back home, getting a marker, taking the garage sale signs out into the neighborhood, use the marker in my truck, and just write on them now my address and the time of the garage sale. So I take the big, huge garage sale signs, put them on the hood of my truck, and just start writing. As I'm writing, and it's one of those things where I think I'm clocking it, but not clocking it enough to really, really register what's happening. A man, older, not elderly, but older, is loading small bags of birdseed into the back of his truck. And to what Kendall just said, helping people with groceries or whatever, I'm sitting there writing, trying to be thoughtful about, okay, we said 9 to 2. I think we could do an hour early and an hour later. So I think I could do 8 to 3 on all these. So I'm thinking that while I'm also thinking there's a man who's older loading heavy-ish things into they're not 50-pound bags of softener pellets, but they're heavier. And so I stopped myself from writing and I turned to him and I go, how many more bags of birdseed do you have? And he goes, well, it's tax-free week. And I just thought I'd get as much as possible because I feed these little bastards this many. And I was like, no. I just mean, it's really rude that I'm not helping you. And he goes, oh, no, that's okay. And I go, no, I've just been in my own world over here writing on my garage sale sign, and I could have been helping you this whole time. That was really rude, and I'm sorry. I said that because it bothers me so much that someone would do that. The other one about helping people with luggage is like, if you catch the wrong lady on an airplane and say, can I put that bag in the overhead bin for you? Like nowadays, you get canceled for that. So I feel like, what do you think? I don't have the strength to do it myself because I'm a woman? Oh God. No, I was brought up to be generally polite and chivalrous, and I felt like that was the polite thing. I'm sorry. I should have known by what you were wearing and the fact that you smell like patchouli that maybe you weren't going to be okay with me offering to do that.
To Kory's point and to Kendall's point about approaching to help like in a parking lot, I think there's so many, and I always wonder whenever I see these like share this safety parking lot post, things that circulate for parents around. There's razor blades under the door handle. There's look for cars circulating the parking lot, look for whatever. Every time I see those circulate, and I'm not saying some of them aren't legitimate, maybe most of them or all of them are, but my brain wonders how many of those are just weird social media posts and of things that actually have like been documented to happen like multiple times, and then how many are just. So I say all of that to say I think there's a hesitancy, like Kory was alluding to not want to appear as though in an effort to do something good that you come across as offensive or creepy or whatever. Especially, there's different situations for different people that are more or less questionable. But I feel like the lesson is for anyone that might be younger, including myself, and I'm talking to myself as well, is like it's still okay from a distance to be like, hey, need any help? And if they say no, are you sure? I'm happy to help. It's like not just approaching without asking. I mean, I think there's a little bit more caution should go into it, but it's still okay to ask from a distance and to insist that you can help. And if they say no, then certainly don't approach. Um, I don't think you can just jump in anymore and start grabbing stuff and helping like maybe you could in previous decades. But I think it's still okay to ask, and so I think it's a good point. And there's so much of that safety stuff that goes around, whether it's over the top or not, remains to be seen. But I think there is something to that with younger people not wanting to appear. I always used to joke when I would work retail and ask people, hey, can I help you out with whatever, insert whatever heavy thing? And, it was almost always like, oh, I got it. Or the wife points to the husband and he can carry it. And you go, and I would just jump in right away and say, not that I don't think you can carry it. I'm just happy to offer. So it's like just making sure I'm covering my bases, nothing implied, just making sure, I'm here
You seem to be a big fan of wings.
Yeah, I'm sure you can lift that. You look like you're sure a big fan of eating and pooping, hot spotting, sorry. So anyways, I think you can have some level of awareness of some of the safety concerns, but also still politely from a distance say, hey, need any help with that? It's probably a good lesson for all of us.
And my outraged feminist, by the way, was just a creation. I made her up. She doesn't exist, but she's in your head now, and that's the person
she exists.
Yeah, she exists, but she wasn't in my story.
Right.
I'm feeling like Joe Rogan over here. Speaking of Joe Rogan, let's get into streaming. He had a live special on Netflix, Burn the Boats, that you can go and watch now. Fans of Joe Rogan are going to love it. Enemies of Joe Rogan are going to hate it. And if you were on the fence, you're probably not a fan anymore. It is the most conservative, not trying to filter anything. He's been living in Texas, and the special shows it. I found myself going, oh, I really agree with that, but I can't tell anyone. So, yeah, it's really good though. The writing is good. It's provocative. It's fun. He reminds everyone, guys, these are jokes. We all need to relax. Even if people I disagree with the most, he says without saying, that's why I started my podcast, to have civil conversations with them over a cocktail. We can disagree and still be kind human beings, because I generally assume that most people are good people, and that if you had their situations in life, that you would be them. And if they had your situations in life, they would be you. And anyway, so it's all good, but man, he pokes and prods quite a bit. It's fun.
Yeah. I was going to say the takeaway from this episode should not be that Kory's sexist and that I'm ageist. It should really be you thinking about Joe Rogan and go watch that special if you want to be offended or laugh. I think the interesting thing about Joe Rogan is he gets to play both sides a little bit, because part of him, he's sort of, whether you like him or not doesn't really matter, but he'll sort of like want to have this premise that he's trying to have intellectual conversations, but then as soon as he's wrong or gets called out, he goes, well, I'm an idiot, don't listen to me, and so I think part of that, like I find myself doing the same thing and sort of in jest, but I also don't have like the global audience that he does, that I don't have added level of responsibility to my audience to also have that moment where I go, you know what, guys, if you listen to this episode, I was totally wrong about this thing. I made a comment that was wrong. I shouldn't have said that, or factually something was incorrect. So I feel like if there's anything Joe could just do a little bit better, is just be willing to not just dismiss negative reactions with I'm an idiot, but actually double back on stuff that he said where he's like, I was totally wrong about that. I shouldn't have said that, or this, I stated this like it was a fact and it wasn't. That's my real criticism at this point. That has nothing to do with the stand-up special, which is in and of itself a whole different thing than him trying to have intellectual conversations on a podcast. So, but it'll be interesting to see what kind of the reactions are. I've seen just a little bit, and it's kind of what you've said. Like, if you love him, you'll probably think it's hilarious. If you hate him, it's just going to probably make you not like him even more. So I'll be curious to see what the ongoing conversation is around that special, and then his show, as people watch that, and then maybe find his show if they hadn't already.
And he kind of gets into what you just said about claiming to be an expert on anything. So I don't know. I think it's worth a watch. I think if definitely language, but yeah, it's good writing.
Good. I don't agree with a lot of the crazy of Joe Rogan, but I still find him entertaining and such. And there's a big part of me that thinks like, there's going to be people, I'm sure it's already happening, people who are going to be like begging the whole world to cancel their Netflix accounts because they let Joe Rogan say these things and they're responsible for it. And my general attitude for that is like, well, I mean, we do live in a country where about half of us don't agree with the other about half of us on all things politics. And Joe Rogan is not a self-proclaimed conservative. He will tell you he's not. However, with the kinds of things that he says into a microphone, I feel like it's okay because you can go and watch 98% of the other specials on Netflix and hear the other side. So it's okay to have 4 of them on Netflix that are saying something else. I feel like that's fine.
I think that's
and
what
if
I
you want one that's not saying, either, sorry, Dylan, check out Atsuku Okatsuka, the intruder. Asian lady, insane bowl cut, like intentionally caricature of a bowl cut. So funny. Dylan, go ahead with what you were saying about politics.
I was just gonna say, I think to counter some of the Joe Rogan or the other specials, regardless of it, I think that's a bit why people like Shane Gillis so much, was that it felt like some people do genuinely feel like they're having some fun with both sides. And even if they have their own leanings, it doesn't feel as like I'm obviously trying to take jabs at one specific side or not. And so I think that Shane Gillis has that really kind of blue collar feel and, much more relatable feel so far, at least. Obviously his comedy could evolve, but I think that's why he feels like a decent balance, with some of the other comedians that are out there. So, and there's certainly a lot that don't really get political and it's not their thing, but then there are some that certainly do. So, it's, I think the options are there if you want to watch something a little more neutral, like Shane Gillis or some of the comedians, like you said, Kory, Atsuko. I said, was that on HBO? I feel like I tried to watch one of the specials and just didn't get far, but
I watched it on Alaska Airlines and I didn't finish it on my last flight. And then when I went back into the Alaska app, it remembered where I was and I got to finish it on this flight out. And I was like, that's cool. So it's my device or my whatever. So I finished it. It was so funny. But you put in a documentary that you watched, and because of recent events, once I saw it in the shared note, and I know we're going a little longer in this episode, but I'm so excited to talk about this documentary. You start.
Yeah, so you're referring to the I Am Celine Dion documentary on Prime, and probably not one I normally would have watched, but because of the Olympics and because of privately a lot of what Celine Dion has been dealing with, I just felt really interested in watching it, and it was very recent. It came out in like May or June of this year, so it's very new. And then there's a quick interview with, I don't know, Good Morning America or something that she had done very recently before the Olympics. You can go watch that too. It's similar content. It was really interesting. The one thing I thought that was unique about this one, for better or for worse, depending on what you like, it doesn't feel like a documentarian following a topic or people to ask questions and get answers. It felt like somebody just set a camera in front of her and it's like a memoir. It's like instead of a book, she's just like whatever she wants to talk about. And I'm not saying it wasn't structured. I just mean it didn't feel like a traditional documentary, whether you like that or not. But it was really interesting to see that some of the issues she's having go back to the late 2000s is when it started, and then it's much more recent that she's been dealing with it in a much more severe sense. But just really interesting. If you saw the Olympics and didn't know any of the backstory, go check that out, that documentary or recent interview. What were your thoughts?
Well, we grew up with her in the house because our mom is a singer and vocalist and appreciates other strong female vocalists and singers. And so we grew up just like Celine was playing in the car when we were kids. Celine was playing on the big box speakers in the living room. Like our mom loved to listen to her. And I think, she had Beauty and the Beast and Titanic and these movies, like these super popular culture movies as we were growing up. So I just had a general appreciation for like her as a person. And then saw obviously her amazing performance at the opening ceremony of the Olympics. So then once I had seen you had seen it, I was like, I'm going to check that out. because I also didn't know what she had been going through. And Kelly Clarkson was like moved to tears. Like the fact that she just did what she was able to do. And I was like, what are they talking about? So I just watched it on the plane and I'm like, first of all, like they start showing clips of her coming up in her career, even when she was a young girl and her family and in Quebec, I think Quebec, right? And like,
I think so.
just how music was a part of her family, and they're all singing these beautiful harmonies in their home, and then splicing that with like her biggest moments, her biggest concerts, her most popular songs, and you just kind of forget, she's Celine, but you're just like, you kind of forget how much this chick can sing and how special and important music is in her life. And this thing is this disease, this rare neurological disease is like taking that from her. So you get to see this person come to grips with the very thing that she finds her identity in and the world loves her for is now being taken away. But she had been keeping it a secret for 17 years or something like this. And you're like, what? And so it's sad and it's beautiful and it's tragic and it mostly feels authentic and genuine, but there is a little tiny, and I do mean tiny, piece of you that it's like it feels a little produced in the memoir sense. Like if you're going to tell the story, she's going to obviously want to tell it her way, and she's a professional, so she's going to tell it in a professional way. But because of that, it feels a little but it's still so good and amazing. And I was just, I was totally shocked by the whole thing. It's fascinating. I was like, Mom, I am Celine Dion, Amazon Prime. Wow. Like, just watch this.
Yeah, there's some uh, one of the things that balances out some of the moments that feel a little overproduced, or I don't want to say staged, but presented in a very specific way, are how some of the moments are. And
yeah.
she's constantly at her current age, which is fine. And this is not another ageism joke, but at her current age, no makeup, no formal outfit, no makeup, not trying to present a certain thing to the world, just very much just, this is me and this is how I live at home. And and in some of the moments that deals with her condition. And so they could have edited some of that out, or they could have showed her right as she was starting to have an issue and say, like, blank the screen and just give you some audio or whatever, but they didn't. And so you feel like it's certainly authentic enough to get a really good sense of what her life is like. And so I just thought it was really interesting. Kory, that was background. Like, this is an artist we grew up with, so maybe really listen to her music or don't voice. Um, but it's some forget how much cultural impact an artist has had until you really start thinking about the decades of hits and films and the song from Titanic. I mean, everyone knew the song from Beauty and the Beast. Everyone's heard some of her biggest hits, but across the world, they're very well known. So yeah, just a pop, I guess, cultural icon or whatever, vocal icon. It's pretty interesting. So if you like documentaries or music stuff, it's certainly worth checking out.
The reaction to stuff shocks me though, because I was reading some comments online and people are like, is there a possibility that she made this disease up because it affects 1 in like 2 million people just to get out of a machine of society's and her fans' expectations on her? And the only way for her to be able to get out of it was to like, sorry, it just happened to me. Otherwise, I'd keep on trucking. And I'm like, wow, the links. Like, just
Yeah,
people, I don't know.
I subscribe to the simplest explanation is often the best, and the simplest is she just a medical issue. And especially with how the documentary ends, it feels pretty clear that she wants to perform.
Yeah.
So anyways,
It's worth your time. Check it out. If you've ever even kind of maybe appreciated her music, go check it out. It's fascinating.
yeah, speaking of worth your time and the Olympics, two more things I've recently watched and music. Dear Evan Hansen on Peacock, a really great soundtrack. Ben Platt crushes it in that movie. And I didn't realize how many covers of that song there was, to the point that Brie actually had to put the pieces together that I think Natalie Grant and maybe Danny Goki or somebody had done a cover. I didn't know which had spawned the other. I didn't know if he was doing a cover in the movie or if I had just heard it from making rounds on social media and from Broadway. And then, so then I looked it up and how many different covers of that song there are. There's a bunch. And actually, Natalie Grant's doing a cover of a cover. After the movie, there was a duet from two other artists, and then her and Danny Goki are covering the duet, which is a cover from the movie and the show. Well, really, the
It's
show.
in the Greatest Showman. They do like a little segment of it, and yeah,
so many different colors. So really great music in that, and that kind of feels like one of those movies that like older high school kids could watch and certainly have some takeaways, which is really interesting. And then for the Olympics, The Boys in the Boat on Prime. If you like historical kind of movies, I know, Kory, you watched that around the 4th of July. We missed that when we finally caught up, but great timing with the Olympics still going. Check that out. Check that one out. It's pretty cool. We got, I'm blanking on his name, from Masters of the Air was in this one. Just a really solid, based on history, wholesome pre-World War II, headed to the Olympics, for rowing. And interestingly, as I was watching it, one of my first thoughts when I realized it was about the University of Washington rowing team, I'm like, oh, that's technically Big Ten history now, which is weird as of this year, because Washington, Oregon, UCLA, and USC are now in the Big Ten. So oddly enough, it's a Big Ten story. And so they'll probably do some kind of cover on it on the Big Ten network at some point. So check those out. Dear Evan Hansen on Peacock and The Boys in the Boat on Prime.
Kendall, what you streaming on, dude? Other than pro wrestling?
Yeah, nope, that's it. And honestly, behind on that. So SummerSlam happened last weekend. I haven't seen it yet. I still have an episode and a half of other WWE to watch before I get to that. So been doing other things, man.
We will let you. Yeah, you've been making memories with your kids.
Yeah.
So we'll let you go off and catch up on sports entertainment. Hey, thanks for hanging in, Middlers. We appreciate your listenership and your viewership if you're following along on YouTube and listening into our life stories and stuff as we just talk about culture and life and entertainment and stuff that's going on. Hope it relates to you. Hope you enjoy it. Hope you're entertained and hope it makes your week. Thanks to Artius Man. They're our sponsors and they make really good men's grooming stuff. If you check them out at artiusman.com, ARTIUSMAN.com, use promo code the middle when you fill your cart for the first time. And it's promo code the middle. That'll get you 25% off of your first order, and all subsequent orders will be tracked to us as your referral. So that helps you, helps us, and helps them. It's a great thing. They make great products. They're naturally made. Natural ingredients, rather, locally made, and just a good dude over there that runs that shop. So go check out Artius Man. We would really appreciate if you did that. And yeah, episodes drop every Wednesday morning, and we love you guys. Thanks for hanging in.